into roll call. The movie you selected is Suicide Squad, starring Will Smith.
Hi everyone, welcome to Roll Call, the show where two childless millennials are gushing over movies and following an actor's journey from their early years throughout their blockbuster hits.
Because let's face it, I would totally want to get out of jail on some kind of program that would, limit my time in jail somehow. And you know where we're going first?
Blockbuster?
Blockbuster. They probably don't know that Blockbuster has been closed.
Oh my God, can you imagine? Someone gets out of jail. It's like 2010. They're given their belongings back. Like in this movie that we're going to talk about today, they're given their stuff back. They got their duffel bag, they get their little put-in necklaces. My Blockbuster card, great. What am I going to go rent? And then they go to their old Blockbuster and it's now a gym or a boba place. And you're like, what the fuck? What the fuck?
R.I.P. I mean, well, now people in jail know what's going on because some of them have phones and all kinds of stuff. And the internet. I think they can use the internet.
Yeah.
So, no surprises there. But maybe I'm going to the last Blockbuster. I'm like, I gotta see one last time.
The one in Oregon?
Yes.
Oh, that's on my bucket list. I think that's a roll call to do. No more late fees, girl trip.
Yes. So, ladies, if you listen to this episode, text us, message us. But yeah, I'm Bria, and all I have to say is, what is this? Cheerleader tryouts?
This is a last resort. I'm Simone, and I'm excited to be recording today with my puddin'.
Kevin can have that one. It's fine. No, but oh man, Harley Quinn and Joker, very interesting in this movie. So.
Listen, I would want to be in the room where it happens. You know what I mean? I want to see
for the first time.
Fly.
I am not hornier than you.
I'm a little horny for these two.
And that's on par, actually, with today's episode, because we're talking about Will Smith in the 2016 DC comic film Suicide Squad. So, Simone, take us on a trip back to August 2016.
All right, so I'm gonna do things a little bit differently today. I wanted to maybe talk about the Suicide Squad lore and what they are for people who are tuning in today, and for maybe folks like me who watched this movie and didn't know a lot about the extension of the DCEU, which stands for Extended Universe. The Suicide Squad is a fictional anti-hero supervillain team appearing in American comic books published by DC Comics. The first version of the Suicide Squad debuted in The Brave and the Bold, which honestly sounds like The Bold and the Beautiful, right? Right?
Yes.
It sounds like a soap opera. Issue number 25 in September 1959. So that picture that I linked down in our show notes today is actually the first cover of when the Suicide Squad appeared in comics. And the second modern version was created by John Ostrander, which debuted in Legends number 3 in January 1987. There are various incarnations of the Suicide Squad which have existed throughout the years. They were depicted in self-titled comic book series from its origins in the Silver Age to its modern-day post-crisis reimagining to the current version that was introduced in this 2016 movie. This 2016 movie really kind of I don't want to say grasped at straws, but does what a lot of comic book movies do, and TV shows like The Walking Dead, anything that's based off of a graphic novel or a comic book series. It's not always going to follow in chronological order, and it might borrow, beg, and steal from other books and kind of cross over. So the current incarnation of the team appears in the 6th volume of the Suicide Squad comic series, and the reoccurring members include characters like Enchantress, Katana, Killer Croc, Captain Boomerang, Deadshot, and Harley Quinn. So the original Suicide Squad appeared in 6 issues of The Brave and the Bold. That was the one that appeared in 1959, which, I mean, I feel like even having a comic series, I know comic books have existed for a long time, but something that has the word, Suicide Squad and using these kind of anti-hero supervillains of the time, feels a little risky. Although its early incarnations of the team did not really have the espionage trappings like they had in the later Squad series. It laid a lot of groundwork for the field leader, Rick Flag, which was that like super douchey soldier dude. And then the team's administrator, Amanda Waller, was introduced in the Legends miniseries with the original Silver Age Squad backstory. So, but essentially it has different origins. There's the Silver Age of the 1950s. It has its re-upcomings in the 1980s with the actual Suicide Squad original series. So again, when it first appeared in comics, it was in tandem with other DC universes, and then gained its momentum throughout time and started its own comic series. It had enough fan following to warrant its own series. And again, for any of you comic book lovers out there, I'm sure you probably already know how this generally works. But what I was learning about the Suicide Squad as I was watching it the other night was that all comic book movies have to fit within kind of a certain timeline. So this movie appeared in 2016. But according to an article by digitalspy.com, they recommend on how to watch all of the DC Extended Universe worlds and Worlds of DC movies in chronological order. So if we're going to backtrack a little bit, chronological order doesn't necessarily have to mean with published date or when the movie was released. It more so has to do with the like timeline of when the movie takes place. Like if you're going to watch the Star Wars series, it's not by release date. So if you're going to watch the DC movies in chronological order, here's how they might happen. The first one they suggest is to start with the original Wonder Woman, not the TV series, but the movie starring Gal Gadot. Then Wonder Woman 1984, which also stars Gal Gadot. Then you can go on to Man of Steel, which was the first Superman movie starring Henry Cavill. Then there's Batman versus Superman, Dawn of Justice. That's where we get our Batfleck, Bat Daddy in Dawn of Justice. 5 is where Suicide Squad fits into the timeline. And that's because we see iterations of Bat Daddy, Barry, aka the Flash, and a few other people that fit into the Justice League. So after Suicide Squad, they suggest people to watch Birds of Prey, which is Harley Quinn's individual movie and her little girl gang of movies. A lot of people have kind of said that Birds of Prey was like the ladies' version of the Suicide Squad. Then you can move on to Justice League, which was directed by Zack Snyder, Aquaman, Shazam. And then to make things even more confusing, Suicide Squad was not re-released, but kind of rebranded in 2021 called The Suicide Squad. So they put the in front of it, thus changing
Fast
things.
and the Furious.
Yeah, the Fast and the Furious. So this cast is different except for Margot Robbie reprising her role as Harley Quinn, but this one has Idris Elba, John Cena, as
Pete
Peacemaker.
Davidson.
Pete Davidson. So I almost started watching that one first because I just like went into my remote and said like Suicide Squad, and the Suicide Squad popped up first, and I was like, I was a couple minutes in, I was like, I don't think I'm watching the right movie, and so I just stop and go back. So because of how the praise of this movie, which we'll talk about film critics later, because of the somewhat negative reviews of the storyline, although there was lots of fan interest with Suicide Squad, they felt the need to rebrand. So that's where we generally kind of are in terms of the timeline. And what the Suicide Squad is that it superheroes aren't always the answer to every problem. Sometimes extreme situations require extreme measures, often or sometimes extreme individuals. The sort of individuals who call to the infamous Belle Rev prison home super villains. That's the charm of the Task Force X, aka known by its nickname, the Suicide Squad. This team of supervillains, assembled by their director Amanda the Wall Waller, undertakes high-risk covert operations and in exchange receive commuted prison sentences. And we do mean high risk. Regardless of abilities and talent, every member of the Suicide Squad is expendable, hence their nickname. And it's expected that many will not return. As expendable assets, all members are fitted with an explosive device in their neck to assure obedience. If squad members try to escape while on a mission, well, escape isn't an option. Run away and it's boom. Given the rigorous requirements of the job, the Suicide Squad lineup is always in flux. The roster has included Deadshot, played by Will Smith, a precise marksman and assassin, Harley Quinn, a peppy but by psychotic villain, played by Margot Robbie, Captain Boomerang, the man who turns into boomerang that turns into lethal weapons, Enchantress, and their sometimes field leader, Rick Flag. So that's kind of the basis of how Suicide Squad gets started, but has many different other supervillains come in play. But today we'll be talking about this kind of original lineup and how it relates to the storyline.
Nice. Well, I did not know all that because I'm not a comic book nerd as much as Seth Cohen inspired me. I never have read a graphic novel. I kind of wish I have. I don't know if it's like lost on me now, if I could pick it up, but I feel like it's something like you get into when you're younger, easier. But I do have some pop culture stuff to talk about.
Please.
Essence.com has a list of Black pop culture moments of 2016, and I'm just going to read from August to December since this movie came out in August. But so in August, Black Girl Magic completely took over the Olympics in gymnastics, track and field, and swimming. Colin Kaepernick made the boldest statement of the year with his decision to protest the national anthem during NFL games. Meanwhile, Tiana Taylor was all types of body goals with her starring role in Kanye West's Fade video, which, if you've seen that, body, yaddy, yaddy, like, amazing. And she says she doesn't even work out like that. I hate people like that. She just dances and she
It's like the line in Selena. She's like, I just eat Doritos and Coke and pizza.
Yes.
Like, damn it!
How do you keep that trim figure of yours? Well, I scarf Doritos and pizza and Coke. Ava DuVernay made history with her directing role in the Disney adaptation of A Wrinkle in Time.
Great book. I have that in my classroom library. And good cast. Admittedly, I did not see the movie, but it had a great cast.
Done neither book or movie, so I feel bad because I know I followed Ava DuVernay's career a little bit because she's a Sundance darling. So I remember when that was like announced and stuff, but I should watch it. In September, we have the Smithsonian's National Museum of African American History and Culture officially opening in Washington, D.C., while tennis icon Serena Williams made Wimbledon history. Solange also released her album A Seat at the Table, which I think I can certify as a classic by now because The Cranes in the Sky. Woo! And Donald Glover starts his TV show Atlanta. In October, we have the release of the movie Birth of a Nation, which is important, but we also have controversy with creator and star Nate Parker having rape allegations against him. Moonlight also premiered in 2016 and to great reviews. As we know, it went on to win an Oscar in a very iconically awkward moment.
Fuck you, La La Land.
And one of my favorite creators, Issa Rae, premiered her show Insecure on HBO in 2016. What a time.
Yeah.
What a time. Kid Cudi takes steps to get mental health treatment, so something I should do. But everyone, take care of yourself and try to, if you have the resources, get help when you need it. By November, Dave Chappelle is debuting on SNL, which is kind of crazy to think about. Like 2016, he never did SNL before that. Given he had his own sketch show, but still. And A Tribe Called Quest performs for his episode. And then we have the Shepherd Sisters and their remarkable story of triumph earned them Sports Kids of the Year award. They should be a little more specific on this because I have no clue who or what they did. Let's see. Oh, they're runners. So track and field and junior Olympians who overcame homelessness, adversity, and hardships to achieve their goals. And then we wrap up the year in December with Oprah Winfrey closing out the White House, the Obama White House, with, of course, a classic sit-down interview with none other than Michelle Obama, and probably making us all sad that we only have 2 terms, but for very good reasons. So, but that is some very important or defining moments of Black culture in 2016. And now, what did this movie cost? What did it make? Suicide Squad. Did the Obamas watch Suicide Squad?
Well, before Bria, you hit us with those box office numbers, I'll go over a couple of movies that were released in the month of August of 2016. I will be honest, I'm not familiar with a lot of these titles, but we do have the Disney's reimagined movie of Pete's Dragon. That was the live action CGI version of Pete's Dragon. Sausage Party, a Seth Rogen movie, which is wild. There's also a movie called War Dogs, which stars Jonah Hill. A movie called Don't Breathe. That's actually a really great scary movie about kids who break into a blind and deaf man's house to steal money, but then they realize that they bit off more than they can chew. There's also a Matthew McConaughey movie and what's her name? Oh, Naomi Watts. There's a movie that comes out in August of 2016 for the boomers out there, just because it stars Shirley MacLaine, Jessica Lange, and Demi Moore. And it's called Wild Oats. And everything changes for Eva when she receives an insurance settlement check accidentally made out for $5 million. She and her best friend take the money and head out for an adventure of a lifetime. All right, so I know Suicide Squad was met with mixed reviews by fans, but I understand that it actually did quite well in the box office. So hit us with those box office numbers.
Why, yes. The budget of Suicide Squad is $175 million.
Damn.
I can only imagine what that goes towards. These kinds of movies have very intricate sets and props and costume and makeup and a huge cast of stars.
The soundtrack, too.
soundtrack. Has some pretty popular, well-known songs. So $175 million budget, definitely, probably every cent needed. Opening weekend, US and Canada, is $133.6 million.
Okay.
So about half almost. The gross of US and Canada is $325.1 million.
Okay.
So definitely made their money back in the North America countries. And gross worldwide, $746.8 million.
Whoa. Cha-ching, Suicide Squad.
So that's probably... I should keep track of...
I'm looking it up right now. I said Will Smith's highest grossing movies, ranking according to Box Office Mojo. And I want to see, because I feel like Suicide Squad's gotta be in there. Yeah, Suicide Squad ranks number 3. So you're right, 746.8 mil is number 3.
Don't say the other ones.
Oh, with number 1 and 2?
Yeah, we'll save that for like end of season or something.
Ah, okay. In our timeline, it ranks number 3.
Break out your Ouija boards. We're heading over to the House of Lil Raj, summoning the spirit of Roger Ebert, and we have a review from Christy Lemire. That sounds familiar. I'm trying to look at her reviews to see. I wish she could sort by... She has so many, so I don't know. But it sounds familiar. Might have read something from her before.
She's definitely, like, post Lil Raj, she's been in the timeline of, like, the past couple of movies we read.
How many stars do you think that the House of Lil Raj bestowed upon the Suicide... Or, no, not the Suicide Squad. The movie Suicide Squad.
I'm gonna guess 2. 2. I'm gonna go confidently 2.
No. 1.5.
Oh, shit.
Yes, this might be one of the lowest movies so far, but
Yep.
Let's get into it.
Okay.
She starts off with her review. At one point in the slog that is Suicide Squad, Will Smith's character laments that he and his team of reluctant do-gooders must battle the swirling ring of trash in the sky. That's a pretty apt description of the movie as a whole, too. It's massive, messy, and noisy, and it stinks. She's really channeling Roger Ebert here.
Damn.
I feel like he would say.
Oh my god, like she's the Enchantress and she has to like slip into
or he's the Enchantress.
Oh, shit!
Anyways, continuing. So she goes on to say, in the continuing effort to create a series of interconnected films based on DC comics and characters similar to the well-established and thus far superior Marvel Cinematic Universe, Suicide Squad is just about as unpleasant as this year's Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice, but for totally different reasons. In following the misadventures of a group of supervillains who are forced to work together to defeat a powerful enemy, Suicide Squad is actually trying to be fun, or at least it's trying to find the mix of daring and cheekiness that made Deadpool and Guardians of the Galaxy such twisted delights. With a few rare exceptions, the attempts at humor in Suicide Squad land with a thud. That is, if you can hear such a sound over the deafening din of gunfire and the bombastic score. Writer-director David Ayer has created a movie that's simultaneously underwritten and overstuffed. It has too many characters, yet precious few who even come close to resembling actual human beings. Ayer brought an intimate, visceral intensity to previous movies like End of Watch and Fury, as well as his scripts for Training Day and the original The Fast and the Furious. Here, it's as if the machinery of making a big budget comics inspired summer blockbuster, say that 20 times fast, has swallowed him whole. Ayer and his enormous team have given us a film that's muddled both visually and narratively. Often, it's hard to tell what's going on because so many of the huge action set pieces take place in the dark or in the rain or in the dark in the rain. But more fundamentally, from a storytelling perspective, Suicide Squad is woefully lacking in both momentum and cohesion. It will grind to a halt for a flashback or to allow its characters to go to a bar to commiserate about how terrible their lives are when the world is supposedly on the brink of destruction outside. And we haven't even gotten to the distracting use of on-the-nose musical selections to introduce each character. I'm not going to say each song for each character, but that's what she does. She goes on to say, that just scratches the surface of the gigantic cast, she lists all the characters and actors, of Bad Boys, Bad Boys the movie, and government type. At the film's start, which takes place after the events of Batman vs. Superman, Davis's Amanda Waller gets the idea to pluck the worst of the worst villains from prison and give them a chance to reduce their sentences. In return, they must help the feds fight their trickiest foes. Their first assignment is to take down a seemingly unsurmountable supernatural figure played by Cara Delevingne as the ancient Enchantress who can time travel and zip through space and manipulate metal and all kinds of impressive, dangerous skills. She criticizes the special effects of this character. The Enchantress took over the body of archaeologist Dr. June Moon, who fell in love with her soldier handler Rick Flag, the broy guy someone called out earlier, who's now in charge of babysitting the Suicide Squad. Besides Deadshot, Harley Quinn, and Killer Croc, there's Jay Hernandez's heavily tatted Diablo, who's been cursed with the ability to create fire. Karen Fukuhara as the masked Katana, who's deadly with the samurai sword that's haunted by her slain husband's spirit. Jai Courtney as Boomerang, an Aussie baddie who does something with a boomerang. Who knows? That's the vibe. What does he do? I don't know. And Adam Beach's Slipknot, who does something else. Oh, I totally forgot about the Joker. That's because he's barely in Suicide Squad, despite his heavily hyped participation. Yes. He's played by this cult leader guy with green hair, a manic smile, and homicidal tendencies we've come to know in various incarnations of the iconic villain. But he's more giggly and creepy than truly frightening, and he's gone for such giant stretches of time that he hardly registers on the film as a whole. Surprisingly, the usually radiant Robbie doesn't fare much better as the Joker's main squeeze and partner in crime. In hot pants and a wicked smile, she has the sexy part down as Harley Quinn, but she never quite sells the crazy. And her heavy New York accent, which helped make her an instant superstar in The Wolf of Wall Street, is oddly inconsistent here. Robbie and Smith get a few opportunities to banter with each other and show the chemistry that made their pairing in the con artist comedy Focus so electric. Smith, of course, can't help but be one of the most charismatic people on the planet, and so that shines through from time to time, and he also has some nice moments with Shaylin Pierre Dixon as the daughter he hopes to reunite with once his mission is over. Similarly, Davis brings her usual formidable presence and gravitas to this otherwise unstable affair, and she's pretty much the only one on screen who makes the film worth watching. Part of the problem is that the powers that be within Suicide Squad view even their few interesting characters as disposable. If these guys fail, they die. If they bail, they die. The makers of the film itself haven't given us much reason to care about them either.
Well, damn.
Yeah, I read this right before when I got home. I watched Suicide Squad last weekend and I enjoyed it. I'm not a huge comic book movie. I've dipped and dabbled with a few. I don't consistently see them, but you know, I take them just like I take like a Transformers movie. It's supposed to be like big, boomy, and fun and whatnot. So I wasn't thinking too critically about this movie. I will say she didn't say anything wrong though. That's the sucky part. Like, the things she points out, like they're great points, but I think I've said it enough. Like, you know, some of these movies we aren't expecting certain things from. So I would watch it again. So I'm gonna lead my rating with that, and I would give Suicide Squad a 3. 3 pumps.
Okay. I agree with you. I think everything this critic said feels pretty true. As we move along our IMDb rabbit hole with whatever celebrity, you know, or actor that we're doing, you know, there's always the question of like, oh, have you done this movie yet? Have you done that movie yet? Or when I like name drop which movie we're like talking about this week, you know, there's the fanfare reaction of like, oh, great, or ooh. And this was one that warranted the like, ooh, that's a tough one. And this was my first time seeing Suicide Squad. It came out when I was living abroad, so I wasn't able to watch it. And then by the time I got home, it wasn't something that was on my radar of like, oh, here are the things that I missed. That being said, I don't think, in my opinion, this movie is as bad as a lot of people think. I think that the plot definitely, like, it took too much time away from the actual Suicide Squad and focused on Rick Flag, and maybe that's because he's like the leader of the pack. Overall, I would give this 2 out of 4 pumps of butter.
Okay.
I
thought
hate
about
it.
2, but I feel like I feel like the fact that they branched off so much with Harley Quinn helps, like, that performance. And then, like, I would watch this again. So
Yes. And we never got iterations of Harley Quinn in the 90s Batman movies or even in the Chris Nolan movies.
yeah.
So this is a lot of people's only screen film adaptation of a Quinn beside the animated series that was on like Fox Kids or something.
Oh, I do want to say that I found that Christy Lemire did write Focus, and
She did, yeah.
she wrote The Boy Next Door.
Oh shit! And do you know how many? Do we remember how many stars she gave Boy Next Door?
Oh, I can see it. She
Okay.
gave it 1.5. So
Yeah, it's the same as Suicide Squad.
maybe I just like shitty movies because I will rewatch Boy Next Door too. Like,
I
I'm
think
just
I would
saying.
rewatch Boy Next Door just to like relive the memory of watching it with you again.
And she gave Focus 3 stars, which
Yeah.
I would actually rewatch both the 1.5 star movies before Focus. So,
Okay.
but anyways, we'll talk about our opinions and thoughts. The cast. All right. Besides Will Smith, we have an abundance of A-list talent.
Hella people.
Here. In my opinion, maybe too much. That's one thing like her review made me think about. I was like, yeah, like you, like as squatty as it is, squatty,
Squatty, yada, yada, yada.
as like deep this squad is, there isn't enough justice for some of the other characters as there is for Deadshot and Harley and Rick Flag, and so some of them get lost in the shuffle. Like when she's like Boomerang, throws a boomerang. Like, I don't know what he does. I was like, you're absolutely right, sis. Like, I don't know like what he does. But anyways, so shall we talk about the man with the grin?
Ah, 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 ah. My overall feelings about the Joker are complicated because the Joker is such an iconic character in the DC world, and Heath Ledger like ruined the role, I think, for a lot of people in that he played it so well, that it's so tough not to like pigeonhole someone's other adaptations of it against his. And so in that sense, it's not fair the for people who came at Jared Leto for his adaptation. I think Jared Leto's actually a really good actor. I know he has it in him. He's been in some really interesting roles, has gotten Academy Award praise and winnings for Dallas Buyers Club. I think some of his more like recent stuff, people have kind of shit on him post Suicide Squad. That's been kind of like a weird downhill trend on the Jared Leto front. Um, but I think he did the role okay. Like he un understood the assignment of the Joker and played a very weird, strange, sadistic person. I think it's just so difficult since this is like the first Joker adaptation post Heath Ledger that it's already tainted so many people's views of it.
Yeah. Um, I definitely remember when like trailers and teasers and stuff were coming out and like
Yeah.
seeing like him with the grills and the tattoos and stuff. And I thought it was a very stark difference to Heath's Joker that like they were put like that was part of why they were pushing it that way, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
how different can we make it?
Mm-hmm.
And so those are like some kind of modern uh things costuming wise that could work. But I mean, from that, I thought like this movie was like centered around the Joker and Harley Quinn and stuff. And so
Yeah.
once again, I thought the movie was something and it wasn't that.
So originally, I thought that the Suicide Squad was teamed up to go against the Joker, not necessarily against the Enchantress. But I agree with you that I think they probably included so much of the story and lore between Harley Quinn and Joker is that to like test to see the fanfare of it and to see if they would ultimately have their
Yeah.
own movie that would incorporate with Birds of Prey.
Yeah, because there was more that got cut with them. But yeah, so all that to say that I didn't love his Joker. I didn't hate his Joker. My biggest
Mm-hmm.
gripe with his Joker, since this is my speaking pattern right now, is I felt like he was abusive. Like
Mm-hmm.
I could not ship Joker and Harley
Hmm.
Quinn in this, and I feel like maybe I should have in some regards because even though they're villains, they are the heroes in this movie, so we're supposed to sympathize with them a bit. And I just get like what's that thing when your captor like you fall in love with your captor?
Oh, Stockholm Syndrome?
Yes, that's exactly what I get
Mm-hmm.
from this pairing. And I don't know if that was intentional or not, but like
Yes.
in the interviews, I felt like David Ayer was like, oh, there's supposed to be this romance story. And I was like, romance? Like that red flags everywhere.
Well,
So,
I think they got their origin story correct. Marvel, or sorry, DC fans come at me for this one, but if I'm not mistaken, it was true that Harley Quinn started off as a doctor, saw the Joker as one of her patients, fell in love, unfortunately, as sometimes that happens, crossed some kind of boundary.
yeah. I don't know. Even if it's correct, I find their origins to be like baffling. Like, not that smart women don't fall for dumb dudes and users and all abusers and stuff, but like a doctor falling in love with a clearly unstable patient.
Yeah.
But anyways, let's talk about that said doctor, Harley Quinn, Margot Robbie. This is our second Will and Margot movie. So I was looking forward to seeing how they worked together a second time around very closely after Focus. And I had never seen this. Of course, Harley Quinn was like one of the Halloween costumes of like the couple years. Actually, not that for a while now, because even with Birds of Prey, like she's still very relevant. So all that to say, I really enjoyed Margot's portrayal of Harley Quinn. I didn't notice like the accent issue that Christy points out in her review, but I feel like there's so much going on in movies like this, you know, that it's not like a concussion where like you're getting these huge moments of dialogue and not a lot of action with someone doing an accent, you know. So I really enjoyed it. I also thought like her crazy was like good and sufficient. It's very nuanced to me, you know. And it's like she slips in and out of like, you know, craziness or you know, personality disorder or whatever, and she can be really nice and then all of a sudden like want to kill you. Like,
But it makes you wonder, based on her origin story, was she always like that and susceptible to a mental disorder, or was it the man who made the monster kind of thing? So the people who like electroshocked the shit out of her and treated her terribly, and then obviously jumping into a stereotypical vat of waste, which like messed with her mentally. Makes you think, was she always like that, or is this like a man-made kind of crazy?
to me it was like a chosen Bonnie and Clyde, but also man-made kind of crazy. Like, I don't think she could have been like, she was clearly in love with him as a doctor, but I don't think they could have worked together on that level. Like, she had to get on his level, kind of.
Yeah.
So I don't really see it so much as her original character, which is like Dr. Quinn or something. Dr. Quinn, medicine woman, having already some kind of mental instability besides her choice in men, but like so many women.
Yeah.
But yeah, I liked Harley Quinn. Clearly her and Deadshot are like the stars of this
Yes,
movie.
they are the main characters of the Suicide Squad. And to add, I think she's great. Plays the role well.
And I think she had fun playing it too.
Yes,
like,
you can see the fun that she had. And she did hella training for this role, for acrobatics, aerial, like when she's hanging upside down in her cage, and not only for to be physically fit for the role of wearing booty shorts and a crop top. I mean, she already had that. She didn't have to train for that shit, but like the actual acrobatic stuff, she did a lot of her own stunts. Huge props to her.
Yeah, there's on IMDb, at least, there's a trivia quote that David Ayer or someone says that her stunt double spent a lot of time in her trailer because she wanted to do most of her own stunts. So props to her. That is not very common for women stars. Next, at least on IMDb, is the Viola Davis. She plays Amanda Waller. She assembles the Suicide Squad and helps put them together and convince the government that this is a good idea. I really liked how badass she was, which I'm not surprised with Viola Davis. Like, she ain't no sucker. So she did say that, you know, for this kind of movie, surprisingly, and a lot of the cast, surprisingly, like David Ayer is like very actor and character driven, and I think that's probably because he's a writer. But like, you know, Amanda Waller had this backstory of being from the Cabrini Green projects in Chicago, so you know, that kind of upbringing definitely probably toughened you up, and being a mom and having lost her children, some of her children, to gun violence. So like, hearing that, I was like, oh yeah, of course she's a tough son of a bitch. And she's not like a typical Washington kind of, like, even thinking of Emma Thompson in Men in Black 3, like, you know, the suit and like stuffy, like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. Or is that M in 007? You know, these women handlers
Yes.
for like these male
Type
characters.
A. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think too, she talks about was it her or was it Will? Someone talks about like her and Deadshot and how Deadshot really likes her because she is nothing but truth. Like, she's just going to tell you how it is and stuff. And so I think she's like probably, again, another star in this, which I was not expecting. So,
Yes. To quote Deadshot himself, damn, that is just a mean lady.
yeah.
But she's gangster though. That was when she
Yes.
just like unloaded her gun like in the room.
Oh, yeah. She killed like all the people working in the room, I
Yeah, 'cause
guess,
they needed to
for.
like clear their drive or whatever, because like Cat was out of the bag on a secret project or some shit. But she played it pretty straight laced, and I think Viola Davis plays that character well. Reminded me a little bit of Lila and Eve that we watched last season with Jennifer Lopez. And uh Though her character is interesting because you're almost not really rooting for her at the end, since she kind of manipulates and hangs these characters' lives in her hands. She always kind of carries her phone with her that has the detonator ready to go and is not afraid to use it. But I think that also is in tandem with her like strong character. She's like, let me handle this. I got
Yeah.
it. But like, therefore, always kind of hangs their lives over their heads. So by the end, when Enchantress like gets her and she's just like, do your worst, you're kind of like, okay, you can do your worst on her. She was kind of mean. She was a mean lady.
Some other members of the Suicide Squad, we have Jay Hernandez as Diablo. He can just spontaneously ignite. He is straight up fire. It's
Yes.
lit. Like, I kind of thought, I was like, oh, where he's been, and
But
he's been
he's like
around.
unrecognizable in this role. For a moment, I thought the person who played Diablo was that infamous model that is like skull tatted.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I was like, oh, that guy's tattoos are real. And Kevin's like, no, that's someone else.
Not quite. No. I thought it was too, but that's clear. That was clearly their inspiration. So props to that
Yes.
guy,
Yeah.
because I used to see him on Google all the time when
All
I
the
would look
time.
at tattoos.
Hmm.
He plays Diablo. Diablo, I really liked his backstory, and I
Yeah.
would think it would be amazing for him to get his own movie. Also, I just want to speak to the diversity of this class. Jay Hernandez,
Yes.
clearly a Latin or Spanish descent man. So there's plenty of diversity to go around in this movie. And I his character is really quiet and he doesn't do a lot, and that's kind of on purpose based on his kind of origin story, or like at least some of his background.
Hmm.
And but yeah, I would love to see his origin story, like,
Hmm.
or more of his background. But I thought he did a good job. And apparently he was like tough as stone. Like, they were slapping him around on set trying to like break him, and he was like, I'm calm because if I release like the Kraken, it's gonna be lit. Like, so he's very, very much in character. Killer Croc is played by, and I listened to his name a couple of times because I wanted to
Bless
get
you.
it right. So I'm so sorry. I really am trying. Adewale Akinnuoye-Agbaje. So I believe he's African, and I don't know exactly where in Africa,
He had
but
a great Bayou accent, though. It sounded very New Orleans when he spoke.
he's from London, England.
Oh,
So, trick you there.
they duped.
but there are definitely plenty of immigrants in England. So I'm curious, like, where his family was from. But anyways, that has nothing to do with Killer Croc. He's in so much prosthetics and makeup. When like I was watching cast interviews, I was like, who did he play? And then I was like, oh, so.
Well, and when I got confused about Suicide Squad versus The Suicide Squad, and I was looking up the cast, and I was like, that's not Idris Elba. Like, he would not be in that much distortion makeup. Because it kind of reminded me of how, like, Jamie Foxx and a couple other actors in the, like, Spider-Man movies, when they were in their villain makeup, would kind of become unrecognizable.
And he's a former fashion model. So,
Okay.
I mean, the bone structure definitely.
Yes,
there.
I see those cheekbones.
Oh, so yes, he's Nigerian descent, but he's British as well. But yeah, Killer Croc is definitely a character I feel like I've heard about in comics and comic movies. So I kind of wish we saw more of him, but he, to me, is like one of the least served characters in this, you know. I understand why Diablo's not front and center, like that makes sense, but like he's a big, like tough, you know, kind of mutant person. Yeah. So, and I didn't really like how Christy Lemire framed it as like, oh, not a lot of these characters are human. And I'm like, girl, what are you talking about? Like, most of them are perfectly fine except for Killer Croc. Like, they don't all have like some weird.
They're not the mutant in the sense of how Wolverine,
X-Men.
Thank you. The X-Men characters are.
Yeah. Or even like think about Green Goblin. Like, he was an actual man, but he turns into this like weird goblin-y looking man. So like Killer Croc I thought was fine, but I kind of wish he had something more going on. Next up we have Dr. June Moon and the Enchantress, played by Cara Delevingne.
Yes, who had her heyday, I think, around this time, and I think the smart casting on their behalf, because she was big. She also was a Victoria's Secret model, I think, right around here, maybe slightly before. If you watch the Victoria's Secret documentary, Angels and Demons on Hulu, she's in it. But she was also all over IG and Tumblr. She kind of had this second wave of like Tumblr girl followings.
Yeah. I thought she was okay. I thought she kind of was like maybe one of the more replaceable people. Like, I thought anybody probably could have played her. Speaking of, there were so many people possibly up for Harley Quinn, by the way.
Oh.
And allegedly the studio really wanted Emma Roberts and she turned it down. So what a shitty career move for her. But thank God for Margot Robbie.
I wonder if she was just riding the high of American Horror Story, that she was just like, nah, I don't need to.
She turned it down to do something. I don't think it was American Horror Story. It was something else. But yeah, you know, I would regret that. But I mean, she still has a decent career. But yeah, like I thought she was good. Okay. I thought I didn't need so much of like her backstory either.
Well, I thought she played the Enchantress well, but Dr. Mooney was just a little flat because the Enchantress is a character. Yeah. Mooney is just like a person. Moon. I think it's easier. I think it's
just Moon.
Whatever. I'm thinking of Kyle Mooney from SNL, but yeah, Dr. Moon. If I may, here's a little impression. I feel like Cara Delevingne a lot in this movie did like kind of whimsical, wacky inflatable tube man moves.
I can't do this with you.
but I think she was following a lot of her model instincts. So it reminded me a lot of like ANTM, America's Next Top Model, when they would like
Enchantress, but make it fashion.
Enchantress, but make it fashion. So she like the way that she posed for stuff was like very angle-esque, very on pose, and I'm like, it's so clear that she's a model and not an actress. But that's not her fault. Like, she's hot. She played the hot, sexy witch role well.
Yes. She definitely also is one of those chicks. I feel like her and what's that other, Ruby Rose.
Yes.
That like girls were like,
am I gay?
Yes. They're like, huh, hold on.
Yeah. I fell in that trap for sure.
Moving on, we have your least favorite, apparently, Rick Flag, played by Joel Kinnaman, and Dr. Mooney's boyfriend. I didn't have a problem with him. I will say that I was thinking about it and I felt like I was being unfair because looks aren't everything, but I was just like, I wish I had more sympathy for this guy who's in love with this lady who is possessed by this beast or, Enchantress person. And like, I didn't care about his story at all. And that's the heart of the movie. That's why they're doing this.
Well, I was confused, like, how the Enchantress was able to switch back and forth and all of a sudden gain her power, where in actuality, Amanda Waller, whatever, was the one who had her heart the entire time. So I'm a little confuzzled, like, how she got from point A to, like, full-blown Enchantress again. But, it was like, as long as...
Because she released her brother, and her brother got full power.
Okay.
And then I think, was able to get it. Or he was able to, like, restore her in some way without it.
Yeah, she was like, if you kill enough people, like, I can feed off your power. Now, I don't feel bad for someone like Rick Flag because... you fucking decided to fall in love with someone who is possessed by someone. Your choice, your path to make, dude. I understand that we sometimes can't help who we fall in love with. He's a good actor. There's nothing wrong with the person that played him. I just had an issue with his demeanor, his like pious attitude, but the person that played him was fine.
Yeah. He is a transformer because he looks good and then sometimes it's like, and then sometimes, Then who else? I feel like we're missing people. Slipknot, where is he?
That is
Adam Beach.
Yes, who is of Native American for Dog Creek First Nations Reserve.
And he is Canadian too.
Mm-hmm. So again, love that diversity.
Yes, I felt like
although his role was really small.
Yeah, because he gets killed. So that, and it's all fucking Boomerang's fault. Who is? I don't want to downplay Adam Beach's role. Amazing points for diversity, and I thought when he was there, very dynamic, and I wish he could have continued on with the squad. I actually feel like Boomerang should have died instead because he also was very broy, so I feel like his ass would have done something, which he provoked Slipknot to do. Like,
sure did.
But he would have definitely done something for them to be like, you're out of here, detonate. So, what we did get to see of Adam Beach, I thought was amazing. And he, too, very funnily, had a great time learning his tools. He's a knot rope expert kind of guy, and apparently him and his wife made use of that. But yeah, I wish we could have saw more of his character.
Yeah,
but I enjoyed his presence. And then to go back to Jai Courtney, who plays Boomerang. Like I said, he was broy and kind of just there slinging his boomerangs and, and stuff. And apparently he had more like banter with Harley Quinn because she actually apparently didn't like him very much initially. So I wish we would have saw that. That could have added like some layers to the squad. But he was alright. I feel like he's expendable too. Like he probably, like I said, he should have got detonated instead and earlier.
Yeah.
Am I missing anybody else important?
Honorable mention, I think we'll go to David Harbour, who plays Amanda Waller's like assistant / someone who works in the government. He plays Hopper, thank you, in Stranger Things. So but this was like right around the time when the first season of Stranger Things was released. So I think they were both kind of released around the same time. And Common played someone named Monster T, and I don't know if that's like a really small.
He was at Joker's Club, and Joker was like, "Oh, you
the
want
one with the
Harley?"
tattoos, the one that like it was like trying to push Harley Quinn on." Yes,
And he was
yes,
like, "No,
yes,
that's
yes.
your girl." I don't think Common's a good actor, so
No.
I mean, it was cool to see him because like, oh, it's Common, but I was like, it's Common, like
Yes.
And I am sorry, I did miss someone really, really important that I also wish we got more of. Karen Fukuhara plays Katana.
Yes. Badass.
Yes.
Badass.
We need an origin story for her.
Yes.
DC, you need some outside people because I actually feel like I fuck with DC characters more than Marvel. I feel like they were more available growing up, like you said, like the animated series of Batman, the Batman movies, like there's just so much in, like they have such amazing characters, and I don't know why, don't know what to do with them, like, but I would love to see more of Katana. I loved her as much as I felt like the movie was a bit muddled by everybody having like this intro story. Like hers was really cool and interesting, and seeing her like in Japan fighting and stuff. And then the way she comes into the Suicide Squad is that she's not really a bad guy.
No, she's not part of the Suicide Squad. She's more of the protector of
Flag.
Of MAGA. Yeah.
Of okay.
Sorry, protector of Flag. She is the protector of Flag.
But yes, because I don't think she would protect.
No, she wouldn't. She sure would not.
But yes. So yes, she's there as a favor to him more so, and kind of there if they step out of line in any way as well.
Yes.
Even though they have these fucking chips in their neck that will explode. But yeah, so huge cast. Oh, also honorable mention, Bat Daddy is in this, so Mr. Jennifer Lopez.
And we see little pieces of Justice League, so we see Batman for a couple minutes, and then Barry Gordon, aka the Flash, in there, played by very complicated Ezra Miller, which we won't get into that, but this is kind of like precursor setup to that Justice League movie that will come out later, which is where we get the Zack Snyder cut of things, and that's how we joked of getting the like Kevin Smith, Zack Snyder cut of Jersey Girl and all that other stuff from last season. What I often forget, and relating this back to Suicide Squad, because they had iterations of they had the White House and other US cities and stuff, that I oftentimes forget that like Gotham City and Metropolis are in our world, but they're just fictionalized cities.
Yeah. A lot of this took place in Midway City, which is where Hawkgirl and Hawkman or somebody is from. Cool. Anyways, let's talk about the man himself, Will Smith, finally, as Deadshot. I mean, I've enjoyed the detours by all means.
Yeah, no,
I was ready to talk about my Lego Batmans that I have, but
you?
I have the crawler from the Dark Knight series and the original because they just reissued it, which shame on Lego because mine was going up in value. But I have it and I've never put it together, so it's unopened, and it has Batman and Heath's Joker, which, that's the only Heath Joker minifig you can get is from that set.
Okay.
And then when we saw Bat Daddy for Superman, Dawn of Justice, all that, I bought one of the little baby kitty sets because it was like Bat Daddy. So I wanted like Ben Affleck's mini Batman minifig, but I haven't opened that either. It's just in the garage. But anyways, maybe I'll make a TikTok about that. Deadshot, Will Smith.
Yes. What did we think about his appearance in this movie with the choice? Did he shave or was he wearing a bald cap? Okay.
Yeah.
What do we think about that?
I loved it. I thought he looked amazing in this movie. And that's to say, I was really kind of holding my tongue with Focus because I did not love how he looked in Focus. He was ripped. We definitely talked about that. But like his hair sort of irked me in Focus. And then the goatee. So I love a beard, this bearded look. And I was thinking about it. I was like, why? Like so close together. Same man, different haircut, different facial hair. Why are there such stark differences? And I feel like it happens with Will. Like he can only rock like certain facial haircut combos to me. And I've never noticed that with an actor or with a man. But like even when after Aladdin, and I think even like maybe a little bit after King Richard, he had like that just like chin goatee kind of thing going on.
Yes.
And like not a fan of that. But like bald head, beard, chef's kiss. And like he had a diamond earring in there with his hat, the brimmed hat, and I was just like, okay,
with the feather
Daddy.
in it. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, Daddy, Deadshot. Like, I see you. And like Christy did say, like his charisma, just you can't stifle that. I feel like, and it works because he's kind of the leader of this motley crew. Besides Flag being there to babysit them, like he definitely takes on like a leadership role. He tries to wrangle like Harley Quinn, like in the fold, tries to ignite, no pun intended actually, Diablo. And they talk, David Ayer talks about that, Will's probably just a natural leader, so it just like shines through. So I really liked his portrayal, and I loved Hancock. I really like that. I wish we got a sequel, but I'm happy he like did another superhero movie. Like I think that this genre actually has like this resurgence that is made for him. Like it's surprising that, I mean, he's a villain in this, but it's kind of surprising he's not some big superhero in like some universe. Like he probably would have been Black Panther if they did that like in his like younger youthful days. But he's like 40 ish around here, late 40s. So obviously he's not going to be doing a ton of actiony stuff at this age like that. But yeah, I don't know. I just feel like I wish this superhero movie resurgence was alongside his career like trajectory, because I really think like it suits his charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent.
Yes. And how lucky we are to have this season where, no absolute offense to Jennifer Lopez, but we've seen this range and dip. There's Will Smith is the chip, and there's many different dips on the table, and every dip has been compatible in my eyes, of fantasy and superhero and serious and comedic and Will Smithian, and Shakespearean and, these like different kinds of roles, and it's
Sci-fi.
sci-fi, absolutely. And then like action, and then we're gonna get a musical, and then comical, and like
Buddy cop.
animated, all this stuff. I just think it's
Yeah.
really what a cool season we're in, to have seen this full. Good job, Brea. What
Oh
a
no, I
nice
was like, what a
range.
cool season. not,
No,
not
but
tooting my own horn.
I'll let you toot it if you want to toot, but I just think it's really, really cool. I kind of had this like realization last night when I was watching the movie of like, this has just been really interesting that every movie we've done every week has been very different from one or the other. Yes, there's been times where we're like, Will Smith, Will Smith. But then as we've gotten on, maybe in the past like 10 years of the timeline of Will Smith, that things have really started to change. And um, this role as Deadshot, they title him Assassin for Hire, Human Arsenal, Lethal from 400 meters, never misses a shot. What I thought the one of the interesting things about his character was that despite his badassery, cutthroat role, he still at the heart of his character plays this family man, which gives him this like sympathetic thing that all he wants at the end of the day is custody of his daughter, visitation rights of his daughter, and that despite literally like murdering other people, still has this moral compass, if you will, which is not new. We see that a lot in a lot of, different action roles. But it reminded me a little bit of the music episodes we talked about with Will Smith, being family oriented and
Mm.
being a little bit more clean cut. Now in this movie, it's not clean. He curses a lot. He's dirty in this movie. But I liked this role as Deadshot, and I appreciated that he was a forefront facing character in Suicide Squad and not someone like Gator Killer Croc, who was a little it was a little bit more in like the background,
Yeah.
and a lesser character. I really liked that he was pretty much the leader of the pack.
Yeah, and in an interview, he talks about how his daughter, Deadshot's daughter, is kind of like his kryptonite. Like,
Yes.
and he talks about how he sees himself as just as good or better than Flag and like these special ops guys that are they're accompanied by, and like he sees that he could have been that and been really good at it, but he, circumstances or whatever, chose a different path in life. And but that feeling of like, I have to like not be so bad for this little girl, like, and I think those moments were some of the enjoyable like flashbacks or like background story parts too, of like seeing him with his daughter, seeing him at the end like get to like do homework with her, but he's clearly not free anymore. But like, his daughter's picking up his trade and is like talking about her math problems as if they're shots and trajectory and bullet. But I think like most superhero movies, like obviously there's some sense of like origin or like why they've done this or where they got their powers from and stuff. And I think this one, like I said, like it kind of felt a little crowded because there's so many of them and they each have like this little section. But I did, like, obviously we're talking about Will for this podcast, so in that sense I appreciated it because it gives a lot of foundation for his character. But I think Will is just such like a thinker, and so like hearing him talk about Deadshot is just like it's not like, oh yeah, I had to get in shape, and he's not like sick like Jared Leto where he's sending people dead pigs and dildos and beads and stuff like that. He's just like, it's really interesting how, these characters have low self-esteem and it causes
Yes.
them
That
to
interview was really
pick
interesting.
their lives and do certain things, and trying to figure out what makes someone bad versus evil. And this isn't a movie about just like evil like villains, it's about bad versus evil and like the nuances of that. And I was just like, oh, Willard, you're so
Well, and we saw that a couple of weeks ago when talking about Focus, that it wasn't so much about the
yeah.
act of the sleight of hand stuff, but the psychology, human brain about people's reactoral responses to things, that's what really interests him in this role. And I love that that interview is awesome, that we'll probably end up linking it in our social media, but like how um, he is so interested in how people's things that make them self-conscious, the things that bring them lower self-esteem, is what can often drive a character, oftentimes villains, to their like
Yeah.
reasoning why they participate in like the villainry, whatever.
Yeah. So I really liked this role. And even Hancock, like,
Yeah.
he's like a drunk superhero. Like how like that's so interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
And um but all that to say, like, I think his intro scene where he's in jail, like, I don't think we've ever seen Will in jail. He's been the one
Besides
putting people
Hancock,
in
yeah.
jail. Yeah, oh yeah, Hancock. And that's funny, both like superhero movies
Mm-hmm.
he's in. He's not like the greatest, like cleanest cut superhero, which goes against like his brand in a sense.
Yes.
But yeah, that's crazy. The only two movies he's been in jail are Hancock
Unless
and
you count Pursuit of Happiness when he was put overnight because his car got
oh
towed, but that I don't think we should
yeah.
count that.
Yeah, that was bogus, but it's not like he's played a criminal, you know.
Yes, yes,
But
yes, 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 yes.
but when we see him taking or doing a hit, like I thought that was badass, and like seeing him like pull on his hood and like jump off the building, like I wish we could have got more of that, or
Mm-hmm.
more a Deadshot movie or something. Like this is what I'm talking about, DC. Like you have this amazing ensemble of characters, and instead of doing more with this ensemble, and I get, thank you for telling the lore of the Suicide Squad. I get that like it kind of rotates and there's different people who are in it at different times. But you go straight into another The Suicide Squad with Harley Quinn, but we're gonna switch it up and put like
Mm-hmm.
different people in it. Like, come
Mm-hmm.
on, like these villains should have been getting their own origin stories, and now Will's like 50, Jared Leto's 50, like,
Are
and I
they the
think
same age?
well, Will's like 52, I think. But
Yeah.
like they're in their 50s now and they look great, and I have no doubt that if they
Yeah.
wanted to, they could get back in shape and ready to do something. But like, people age out, as like, Daniel Craig couldn't be 007 forever anymore.
Very
Like,
true.
and now you've kind of like blown the window for like more of this. You're lucky like Margot Robbie is like so young still, but like imagine if she was in her 40s or something. Like,
It's unfortunate that there was a lot of potential there for jump off movie points, and I wonder if that's what the original intention was. Sometimes I think when movies are produced and released that they see kind of how they do box office wise, and then they get greenlit for other sequels, prequels,
yeah.
background stories. If my knowledge of Disney like carries over for anything, I think that that's how this can kind of be applied. Um, but yeah, you're so right. Like they can't necessarily. continue on, but Will plays a convincing superhero and not one that's like, I'm getting too old for this shit. Like he still had a lot of energy and pep in his step and capabilities and is a real action
Yeah.
man, ripped as fuck.
Oh, yes. He was in amazing shape for this movie.
Hmm.
And I love like the scene where they're first getting to like the city and stuff and they're walking through and there's those weird creatures that they're like stealing souls and whatnot from. They look like all like reptilian or something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They remind me of like the Power Rangers foes that like are just because they're all the same, you know.
They're just like ambiguous, kind of just like goofy.
Yes, but so they're like, oh shit, what are these things? And so then they start fighting and stuff. But like, there's a scene where Deadshot is just like hammering away shots off top of a car, and just,
Hmm.
and then he goes back and he looks at Flag and he's like, I forget the line, but exactly, but he's like, how's that for like running away or whatever? Like, because Flag
Yes.
implied that at the time of being like in battle, so to speak, like he probably couldn't answer the call of like, oh great, you can shoot well and
Hmm.
you never miss, but like, when shit's on the line, like, are you gonna show up and stuff? And so he was just like nailing it, and I think he saved his life at like within
He
that or
did.
something.
Flag was like overtaken by the army of the Enchantress. Those are people she like sucked the souls out of or whatever and turned those into the little like they looked like charcoal. They looked like they were people that were made of charcoal. And so he did end up saving his life. And I also love this scene where Harley is rescued by the Joker in his own little private copter, and she's just like, "Bye, I'm gonna go and do my thing," and she's kind of like hanging acrobatically, and Deadshot is ordered to shoot her. And as we know, he never misses. Now he did have her on target and he did shoot, and then she kind of like rolled down and played dead. And then he's like, oops, I guess I missed. But they all knew that that was fake. But I liked that scene too because it just goes to show that I'm not going to follow other people's orders. Like, if you ask me to shoot, I'll shoot, but I'm not shooting to
Yeah.
kill her in that instance.
Yeah, even in another interview, he talks about how Deadshot is kind of like the most sober amongst the Suicide
Mm.
Squad. And
Ooh, although he's murderous, he is most sound of mind.
yeah, but also how like he respects Amanda Waller's character and her gangsta and whatnot, obviously, but he doesn't like there's something that him about being like used in this way
Yes.
of
Yeah.
like, you know, you're gonna be able to have this back if you do this. And he's like, and these are all people who are kind of like solo agents and free agents who just kind of do their own thing. So to be like under by someone is very against like their nature in a way and their usual workings. And he's essentially a hitman, so he's usually calling the shots. So I thought that was like a good nuance too of
Mm.
his character. But to the interaction with him initially when they're like testing him out, and he
Yes, at the gun
shoots
range.
all the, well, yeah, so at the gun range and like even his initial reaction of like picking up a gun, like you can tell like that's his shit. Like he's just like like, and
Yes.
he's like, you jokers are crazy, like just giving me this. But he does what he's supposed to do and doesn't do anything crazy. But he's just so good at it and he does a good job of to me at least, playing someone who like conveys that like this is what I'm good at and I know like what I'm doing, and just is inherently this marksman. But when he goes on to like say what he wants out of this deal, and he's like, I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to your boss, because no one's writing this shit down. And, like, that whole like scene like was very like, we've seen that Will, like I would say in like Michael Ari and stuff like that, where like he's very sure of himself and confident in himself and his abilities and stuff. But like, you know, I love those characters that he plays, where it's just like, even in Men in Black, when he's like, you know, I make this look good, like,
Yeah.
like those cocky kind of moments. He does that in such a like charismatic way, where it's not like, ugh, like this guy again, like Mr. Hotshot, Deadshot, okay. But I love that that part of it. And then too, even talking about Harley's escape scene, like when he's saying, he's kind of like a dad, like, Harley, get back, like, you know, like he's kind of trying to wrangle her in some aspects, some ways. And I know I was not like thrilled with Joker and Harley Quinn's relationship, but like we talked about their chemistry and focus, and we talked about like, well, I made the mistake of posting him and Charlize Theron's chemistry, and him and Margot Robbie definitely have had rumors about them, but I definitely think you saw the start of something in Focus, but you definitely see the payoff here more so. Yeah. And like, look at this, like, look how they're looking at each other. Like, I'm here for Deadshot Harley Quinn. Like, I'm gonna go find a fanfic. Somebody had to write one.
Oh girl, there's probably some smut out there on that front. But yeah, so anything else about Will and Deadshot? Or his line of "here's to honor amongst thieves." This is when they go to get a drink, when they kind of realize like what they're actually up against, because the government agency was just like, yes, you are going to like go check this thing out, but they're definitely withholding information from them. He's someone, I think, who plays a character who's extremely self-aware of their surroundings, and whether it be in Focus or 7 Pounds, Hancock, I Am Legend, Pursuit of Happiness, he plays someone who is aware of the people around them, or around him and his character, and aware of the situation. And I appreciated that Deadshot had that, yeah, I might be a murderer attitude, but I'm still a human at the end of it. And it kind of made me like go into this not so much of a deep dive after I watched 7 Pounds, where I just needed to like lie down and look at the ceiling for a moment, but it did actually get me to think about the prison industrial complex and the use of prisoners, and whether it be for job labor, and how many people view that as like a modern day form of slavery. And I think that there's a little bit more depth to Deadshot than people give him credit for.
Oh, yeah. It's the deepest one here. I do want to go back to chemistry, because as much as the easy thing to do would be to focus on him and Margot and insinuate more is there, the whole cast always brings up like how much they were hanging out and how much time they spent prepping and sparring with each other for fights
Yes.
and just in each other's trailers. And you can see that in the interviews. Like it's like getting a bunch of rowdy like high schoolers together
It
that
kind of
are
reminds me of like a superhero version of the Breakfast Club where you have these like unlikely master of minds come together to use their talents in different ways, but they all come from like different backgrounds and privileges and things like that.
Yeah, but like the cast chemistry of this, that's another reason why I think this is a missed opportunity. How often do you get ensemble casts like this that enjoy working together and with
Hmm.
each other
Hmm.
that, are pretty good at these characters? I wouldn't say anyone was miscast,
Hmm.
really. And, have formed a bond enough to come back. Like there's no drama except for maybe Jared Leto and his weird presence. But even then, like I feel like people took that with stride and was just like Margot Robbie named the rat she got from him. And everyone was kind of like, yeah, I mean, I just tried to like help it inform my character, I guess. Like, but like, like I'm saying, this cast got along really well, had great camaraderie. You can see that in all the panels they did, Comic Con.
Yeah.
It's if it's just three of them in an interview, if it's two of them, if it's all of them, like, and just like the shenanigans on set that they were getting into. Apparently, Courtney liked to run around naked a lot. Like Will talked about seeing him naked more than he had seen like people he's shot love scenes with in other movies. Like
Ah,
he's like, I've done quite a few love scenes in my time and I've seen this guy naked more than I've seen any of those other people.
oh
So
my gosh.
he is adverse to putting on clothes, but in a very like, that's Jai.
Hmm.
Or I quoted this line because I thought too it spoke to like maybe the rumors a little bit in and Will saying I've worked with a lot of casts and this is definitely the horniest cast. And they're just like explain like how, and he's like I think I said too much, like, but I think it goes with like Jai's nakedness, but just like they're all really good looking people too, they're
Yeah.
all young, like I could definitely feel like some energy, or maybe some of them are just really sexual or something, but like the energy within that group definitely is
Yeah.
giving like almost borderline frat house, sorority house, like neighbors,
Yes.
like you show me yours, I'll show you mine. So much so that they got squad tattoos, all of them except Will,
Yeah.
and Margot Robbie did the majority of them herself, but Will did. I think he did flags. I
Hmm.
can't remember the guy's
I
name.
love that. I think that that's very special to like be on set with someone with that group of people and to have the, like you said, camaraderie behind it, the friendship of like, yeah, we're gonna get Suicide Squad tattoos. So special. And no,
And
not
not
even knowing how long this like franchise would last.
right. And not good tattoos either.
Yeah.
Like self-done, homemade sort of tattoos. Like
Yeah.
that's a lot of trust. I'm sorry, but I would not let you tattoo me.
Yeah, that's all right. No offense taken. I'd let you because you're the artist out of the two of us. I mean, I saw how you reacted to my two-dimensional popcorn drawing, so you can
Yeah.
tattoo me, Bria. It's okay.
But I think it works in this sense because they're all
Yes.
like these outcasts in the movie. It's like all
Yeah.
kind of crazy and all over the place. So like Squad's misspelled. Margot messed up on I think David Ayer's tattoo and had to like cross out a letter and put a K in or something. So it's on brand for sure.
Yeah.
What else did I want to talk about?
I have a question for you, Bria. If you had to get a gold choker necklace, we talked about studded belts a few episodes ago. If you had to get a gold choker necklace with a custom nickname or phrase, what would it say? Would it also be your name backwards, or would you do something different?
No, it wouldn't be pudding.
That's fair.
I wonder where that came. Is that in the comic books?
Yeah, I think that's like a nickname that her and Joker call each other.
I don't know if it's the way Margot said it in this movie, because now that you say that, I'm thinking of like the animated series, and I feel like she had a little more like sauce on her. She's like pudding, like
Pudding.
I don't know. But anyways, I would probably get like a B and a dollar sign.
Okay.
Keep it simple, short and sweet. What would you get, Lil Yammy?
I think Lil Yammy would be my belt buckle. Maybe I would get SIMONEY, Money.
I mean, yeah, that's all my notes, I think.
Do you have a snack and cocktail?
Not really. I mean, we preemptively looked up the Harley Quinn shot, so that was really pretty. Nice pink to white to blue ombre. Probably a bitch to make, but I liked it enough to keep it as such. Also, I feel like after all that work, I would want like a nice cold beer or something, like very working man's drink. Just like, woo, honey, toss me one of them Coors Lights, like. And then food-wise, there wasn't any food in this movie, really. Maybe some pudding.
I love that. Some pudding.
Probably vanilla. I'm not a chocolate pudding fan.
What about the like layers? You know,
I
like the
could do
snack
it.
pack that has the chocolate on
I
top.
could do a layer. There's one that's not quite vanilla, but it's like still white. Or like
Tapioca?
banana pudding. I've been fucking up this Trader Joe's ice cream, so banana pudding.
Oh, yeah, I think that's my favorite dessert of all time. I'm a sucker for anything banana.
Oh, is it butterscotch? Maybe
I was gonna say call me grandma. I call me grandma, but I love butterscotch. My fave.
Yeah, I think it's butterscotch.
Yeah.
But I'm going banana pudding.
Okay.
You have a drink.
Yes, my cocktail is actually, leave it to Beaver over here to research a whole ass cocktail. This is a Suicide Squad inspired Deadshot cocktail recipe. And this one's a doozy. So the 3 J's pack quite a kick in this movie inspired cocktail drink. And before I go quicker or further on this one, the fact that they called Joker J in this actually really fucking pissed me off. I think that really took me out of it. I think it's stupid. Just call him Joker. Anyways, doesn't matter. There, to make a Deadshot cocktail, your ingredients are 1 ounce of Jim Beam, 1 ounce of Jack Daniels, 1.5 ounces of Jose Cuervo, 3 ounces of Coke and ice, and then
Wait,
a little.
You're mixing brown and clear.
Sure am. And with a couple tablespoons or teaspoons of simple syrup, and then you rim your drink in like black sanding sugar to look like his little his little eyeball.
Wow, that is a shot that will leave you dead, I'm sure.
That's potent, hence why I didn't make that tonight.
Oh man, yeah, I don't think I would try that. I mean, if someone else made it, but I'm not going out of my way for that, like, experiment. End up on my ass. So, what did the Harley Quinn shot have in it? Like, it wasn't like a.
It was bubblegummy. It was like
Yes.
pink and blue, which I
And-
honestly would fuck with.
And that was like from vodka.
Yes.
Yeah, so it has blue curacao. That doesn't have alcohol, right? It's just like a
Blue Curacao is like it's like a,
mixer.
yes.
Pina colada drink, coconut rum,
Mm-hmm.
white rum. Okay, so it's rum based.
I think we were talking about last week. I have the ingredients to make that.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I would much rather a little Harley Quinn over Deadshot. Sorry, Will, but have somebody mix you up a better signature cocktail.
Yeah, the 3J is potent.
I'm surprised you don't have a would you rather for this hot mess.
I didn't, but my question was about the necklace.
Oh, yeah, true. Okay, well, I mean, we talked a lot because hefty movie and
Yep.
probably didn't do this movie justice. We're not comic book savvy
We are
film
not.
watchers, so we probably miss like all kinds of cool details and lore and whatnot.
But the heart of this podcast is to just follow someone's journey from point A to point B on their IMDb list. And I think for that, we did a damn good job.
Oh, I did want to talk about
Yeah.
when you're talking about range and like all of Will's movies and stuff, and you you so politely was like, no offense to J-Lo, but it's weird because like he is doing everything I wanted for Jennifer Lopez in a way. Like I feel like I've said this enough last season, but like, you know, J-Lo definitely, I feel like, does what she wants to do.
Mhm.
And I feel like Will has consistently challenged himself. Like, he could have easily just fell like action hero guy. But we get a string of Ali, Pursuit of Happiness, 7 Pounds, like these movies. And like, yeah, he'll go back and do a Bad Boys or something. But like, you know, you have Focus, but then you have Concussion. And so I really appreciate that about this season. Like you said, like there's so much diversity, but like I feel like he talks about like how like in that and is this the one with the round table? No, that was for Concussion. But in that round table, he talked about, you know, I felt like I hit like the peak of my powers as an actor. And he had to take a break and kind of like live or like become a better man to become a better actor. And so he really worked on being a better dad, a better husband, and working on like his relationships with his kids and his wife and trying to like figure that out. So like that's at that point where he's trying to like understand more about being more vulnerable and stuff, because he's a very like, I'm a winner. Like, what can I do to help us win? What can I do to make Willow a star? No, my daughter doesn't want to be a star. She wants to be a kid. Okay. How do I listen to her? How do I be a better dad? How do I listen to Jada and not make her 40th birthday party this huge spectacle and kind of embarrass her in some ways and like actually like see my wife? So all that to say that I think hearing him talk about that journey of wanting to be a better actor and intentionally like being self-aware about that, like I think that's why his filmography and his career is so diverse. And we, even though like, you know, you said there are points where he did Will Smith and stuff, there's still so much to look forward to and to see and like to like I feel like at certain points in JLo's season, like once we got to like Ice Age, like we were kind of like, oh, like not really excited to watch that. Like, all the movies we have left, I'm still very interested to see.
Me too.
Like, and even like Home is like super small, so it's like, oh, like that could have been interesting, but alas, not that big of a role. And even though I enjoyed Marry Me, it's like another rom-com, you know?
Yeah.
But all of that to say that I think that Will as an actor has been very good about continuing to grow and progress, and I really enjoy that about him. He be acting.
He be acting.
All right, everybody. Thank you for listening to this week's episode. And to the people who stuck with us so far, please come back for another episode of the Suicide Squad version of Inside the Actor Studio. We're just a ragtag semblance of amateur podcasters.
There you go. We never claimed that we were heroes here. So we're just having fun. So seriously, if you like us enough to stick around, take another deep dive down this Will Smith IMDb rabbit hole as we discuss Will Smith in the next film, which is a 2016 fantasy drama, Collateral Beauty.
See, look at that. I was not prepared for that. But on that note, if you've got nothing better to do, you go out and figure out a theme to watch a bunch of movies you've never seen.
I am your host, Simone. Please subscribe to This Blessed Mess and leave us a like if you're into it.
And I'm your host, Bria, and it would be awesome for you to go wipe off that... I don't even know. I'm trying to think of something.
Wipe off that pudding off your fingers.
That's a good one. You could keep that. Yeah, wipe off that pudding and give us a review. Follow us. I'm sorry. Thinking about putting fingers and that.
It just looks like doo-doo.
No, I was thinking, again, like I said, I'm not chocolate pudding, so like white stuff on your fingers. Just saying. Little extra Deadshot Harley Quinn trailer time. Why, Bria? Shoot yourself in the foot. But yeah, follow us on Roll Call at Roll Call Pod. Follow us at Roll Call Pod. That is ROLECALLPOD on Instagram, TikTok, problematic ass Twitter, and listen to us on YouTube as well. Yes. And this has been another episode of
Roll Call and cut.